Thank you. I'd like to call the Neighborhood Commission meeting of November 25th, 2024 to order. I'd like to start off with our roll call. Dylan, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Bernal.
Here.
Ching. Clark.
Here.
Logue. Melendrez.
Present.
Oshiro.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Tamamoto. Verek. Still can't hear you, Larry, but we see that you're here. Thank you.
Thank
Six
you.
present.
Thank you. Before we move to the next item on the agenda, public concerns, I was reminded to possibly bring this up before we started. Anyway, I wanted to inform the board that one of our neighborhood board chairs recently passed. And at the Waipahu neighborhood board meeting last week, we did have a moment of silence to remember her. And the chair was Connie Haralaga, a longtime member of the Waipahu neighborhood board. So if the commission could take a moment of silence to remember Connie. I know some of you did know her, so if we could do that, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to public concerns. Are there any public concerns tonight?
You have one in person.
Chair, I have one.
I got one online.
One online? Okay, Tom, you have the floor. Can you hear me from here good?
Yeah, if you just want to speak up a little more.
Okay, thank you. Or you can move here. Okay, thanks.
We got you on the last recording. I think you're actually sitting over here, but that's good too.
Okay, thanks. Tom Heinrich in my individual capacity. Just one issue I wanted to bring up at this point. I've had a conversation with several chairs and other members of several of the neighborhood boards in the central region here in the last couple of weeks. And one, there's an appreciation for getting the word out already as to the deadlines for registration for the upcoming elections. But interestingly, there's also a side concern that each one of them stated, which was, you know, we've been able to manage various things in terms of member X only participates online, member Y is able to get to in-person meetings or whatever. What may the policy be with the new term? So increasing concern about basically if, as most of the boards have done, you've returned to an in-person meeting, what basically would the expectation be for the members at the start of the new term, so starting with July 1st. So it's an issue that's kind of coming up because there are a couple of members who are saying and have said for some time, I will not appear at a in-person meeting, and they're wondering, how do we deal with this? Okay, so kind of an open question as to what constitutes participation as a member. Not talking about the public, but a member. Thank you.
Sure, I have Kevin Lai online.
Okay, another hand up is Kevin Lai. Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. Commissioners, I tonight just bring a few more questions about the NCO website and the presentation documents that your body generates. I've had occasion and need to do some searching and research online, and a couple of things came to light. I'm wondering why there don't appear to be any approved meeting minutes or written summaries for the commission within the commission approved minutes 2024 folder posted since July of 2024. I just wonder and hope that there are protocols to make sure that things are expediently moved to the proper folder for public review and search of such. Secondly, I wonder where is the set of findings of fact that are generated for each adjudicated complaint, which at one point were available on the prior incarnation of the NCO website. Doing a search through other means through the city's set itself, I was able to locate just 3 such documents, all from, I believe, 2022, when in the past I know there were at least 15 or 20 such documents. I just hope that they can be resurfaced and again, made searchable for the public who may want to do some additional research. And lastly, I just wonder if the new website was proposed, designed, and managed in-house or through a city-paid consultancy. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
I can answer one of those.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, but just for the last question about the website, Kevin, that was made by the city. DIT.
That's all I have on mine. Oh, I'll fix that.
The minutes.
Well, the minutes were just been behind, is that it?
Yeah, the commission has approved them. Most of them I think were as written. A few were small amendments. I need to get those to our posting guy and put them on the website to reflect on the website.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval of our minutes, our October 28th regular meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
I'll give a hand raise from Kevin Lai.
Yes, the commissioners take a look at them. We'll hold off on any motions at this point. Kevin Lai, you have the floor. Your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. While the commissioners are considering the draft written summary, I just wanted to share online just a revision of the comments attributed to me during the last meeting on page 1, section 2, public concerns, paragraph 2. In keeping with the intent to address accurately the substance of the conversation and comments that were held, I just proposed some changes, minor in nature, to the paragraph of the concerns. It really just refocuses the intent of the questions that were posed, so again, that the public can understand what was being asked. It's a separate issue of actually addressing those concerns, as I understand, but just want to make sure that the public was able to see the questions that were being asked in case those were being tracked. I won't take the time to read them out loud, but perhaps someone on there could. I'm not sure if they've come across through the chat pane to Dylan or not.
I'm sorry,
Patrick?
can I ask a clarification? Are you just talking about stuff, material or writings in the chat function? Or are you talking about the actually verbal parts of the meeting?
Commissioner, I was just mentioning that I had posted into the chat for the meeting right now the text of the proposed change to the written summary.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have them here, but it is a bit lengthy to read word for word. I believe you saying the substance is still there, but a lot of verbiage has changed.
Yeah, I'll leave it up to the board to make a recommendation. Do we have a motion on the floor? So accept or amend the minutes?
I so moved.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, there's been a motion to accept and approve the minutes as circulated. It's been seconded as well. So are there any objections? Any opposition? Okay, the minutes are accepted as circulated. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is Executive Secretary's report. Is a recap of our briefing with the chairs and vice chairs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Had a meeting with the chairs and vice chairs on 11/4/24, and it was related to the OIP opinion that was sent to me on September 30th. And just go through this fairly quickly, because it really was going over what OIP was talking about and just making sure everybody understood that. And I just have a few items that I want to highlight, but I want to get to the end because that was really what the meeting was about. But just as a reminder, if you have an important, the board should remember, if you have an important issue that has not been on the, is not in the agenda, you can only discuss it if the public talks about it first. The board members themselves cannot bring it up. And you cannot vote on it. If you want to discuss and vote, you need to put it to the next agenda, the next meeting. So just a reminder.
So they can't put it on the agenda by 2/3 rule?
Yeah, I always thought that we could do that.
You're not supposed to. And well,
It's a provision.
yeah, but it gets to a certain kind, the second part of this is, if you wanna add something to an agenda during the meeting, you can add an item to the agenda only if these requirements are met. And number one is the matter is not of reasonably major importance. And obviously, you're gonna add something that you think is important, but generally speaking, that's their view. So if it's not of major importance, then you can add it on, but if it is, then you can't. I mean, that's what OIP is saying. And it does not affect a significant number of persons. And so, again, everybody has to interpret it the way they feel is proper, but OIP, then that is exactly what they say. You know, if it's not major importance and it doesn't affect a lot of people, then you can't. And then at that point, the board has to have 2/3 approval of the full membership to approve it. But, if you do not meet the above requirements, you should not discuss the topic. Unless, of course, it is something that was brought up by the public. But on your own, you cannot, so. It really should go to the next meeting agenda, and the whole purpose of this, in terms of sunshine law, is that the public should have the right to know ahead of time what you're gonna be discussing. And if it's of major importance, they should know ahead of time, so that they can attend the meeting and talk about it or express their opinion, so. And again, don't shoot the messenger. I'll laugh, because he's been the messenger many times. He's got a lot of holes in him, so. The other thing that I think was part of the challenge for us and ended up in a discussion later was a third-party reports for informational purposes. And basically, the public needs to know ahead of time that you will be discussing and making decisions on a particular subject. And it says, from OIP, if the item is informational, no questions, discussion, or decision by board member. And that is, again, don't shoot the messenger, but that's OIP's interpretation of how you can handle things. And they actually give examples of third-party reports, and it's like monthly reports by the whole fire department. So if we put that on the agenda, once they give the report, the public can ask questions. And at that point, you can engage with that, whatever they bring up. But as a board member, you can't really ask them questions. You really shouldn't talk.
We always do.
I understand that. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying that OIP says you can't. Okay, so,
We still, we always do.
yeah, and
No, but you just said,
I never saw, go ahead.
no, you just said if they report something,
Yeah.
you can ask them questions about it, but
No.
no.
Not board members.
not board members, the public can. You know, and that's the line that is, and I think, I'm not gonna defend OIP, but I think OIP's view is that the board members can make a decision, the public can't. You know, so, and they were pretty straightforward about it, that, you know, if somebody gives a report, like the police, unless they talk about something very specific, you really can't, if it's not on the agenda, you can't, as a board member, you can't further discuss it.
If it is on the agenda, a particular item is
You
on the
can,
agenda, you
yes.
can.
And if it's not on the agenda, but the public brings it up and asks questions about that specific item, then you can further discuss it.
You can discuss it, but you can't make a
Yeah,
decision.
make a
on it.
decision.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of trying to interpret what OIP says, and the point of it all, I hope everybody understands is this. While I may agree with you, I cannot take the position, screw it, we're just gonna decide. That'll be going against the law.
They just want public participation, that's fine.
Yeah, and the whole premise is that they want to make sunshine law is about making sure the public is aware of what's going to be discussed, what could be decided. And again, it was an interesting letter from OIP. Anyway, what we are going to do, what we're trying to do right now at NCO is come up with at least a basic template that we can use for agendas. So at least we can incorporate some things so that the board members can discuss it. We haven't been able to do it yet, because other than writing a 40-page agenda where you list everything you possibly could ever think about, it is, and OIP has cautioned us also not to be so general that, I mean, we can't put something like, and whatever the police talks about, we can talk about. We can't put something like that.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I would say, I think you misstated something before where you talk about during third-party reports, and maybe I misheard it, was if a member of the public brings up an item, then the board members can discuss. According to this letter, they cannot. It's only during the public input agenda item in which if a public member brings it up. So like if it's a police report or something like that, per this letter, as I read it, the board cannot discuss.
Well,
Okay.
I will take a look at it,
Yeah.
That might be worse.
It is worse, but that's what they're saying. I'm not saying I agree with it, just like what you're saying. But I'm just further clarifying. that.
We'll go and clarify that.
Okay.
Also at the meeting, I just wanted to remind the board chairs about posting agendas. And that we need to, by law, we have to post the agenda 6 days before the meeting. So we need to and I made this clear, I don't know how many times, we need to receive your agenda by 12 midnight on the 7th day. And it's simply because we need a little extra time to make sure everything is okay. And the problem is, technically, if you have an agenda and we just post it as is, we could do that. However, if you got a date wrong, that's no good. You can't have that meeting. And so we do like to look at it and make sure everything's okay. The other thing that happens is that with our virtual meetings, we do have times where the link to the meeting site is the old link. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, we use a new link. So anyway, there's a number of reasons why we need to get it, the day before. If we don't get it by that time, we will cancel a meeting. And the challenge for us is that if you give it to us on the 6th day at 4:20 in the afternoon, we're not even prepared to address those things. I mean, we have so many other things going on. So, just wanted to remind the board chairs. After I went through the letter and after I talked about things, I just got feedback from the chairs, and I just wrote this down, and basically, the general and again, don't shoot the messenger. The general overall sentiment of those attending was not supportive of the letter from OIP. It adamantly disagreed with it. Most felt the advisory letter worked against open meetings and the purpose of neighborhood boards. Just the name. And some felt that the board should disregard the advisory letter, which again, I cannot do that. Right? I mean, I am in a position where that would be I'm not, no matter how much I may disagree with them. And again, I also reiterated, while there are some things we can clean up in terms of improving our agenda, there is no clear guidance as to an agenda template we can all use at this point. So we're going to be working on this. And again, if I told everybody, if you got any questions, just call me. But the challenge for us is that we are in a position we have to make some changes, and we're trying to make them now. Trying to find a happy medium where the boards can function. It can be pretty much an open discussion. At the same time, we can keep within the confines of OIP. And I think that is a bit of a challenge. The letter from OIP really kind of made a box, and we're just living in a box right now, trying to figure out how to get out of that box.
Well, I have a quick question, but it's an advisory letter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Well, we go by the neighborhood plan, right?
Right.
Advisory is just advisory.
It's a fine.
It's just advisory.
Yes.
It's not legally binding. If it's
The
advising
state law-
consent,
The state law is above the neighborhood.
Yeah,
no, that's no debate. But the OIP presented an advisory,
I-
which is fine to take it into advice, right?
The director, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's actually in the sunshine law, I think it's like 92-1.5, says that the director of the Office of Informational Practices is charged with administering the sunshine law.
So that's
So,
fine. But it's
well,
still
but
advisory.
this, yeah, but this is from under the direction, presumably, of the director. So this is telling us what we need to do. I mean, it's not just advice, it's
Right.
direction, you know.
But wouldn't they have made it, Richard, would they have made it a different type? They wouldn't call it advisory.
No.
They'd say a requirement.
They can. And-
Well, it's the same thing, I mean, this is an advisory, but, I mean, our understanding, or my understanding was that this is how they would interpret the law, the sunshine law. So that's why the reaction from the chairs, as Lloyd mentioned, was very negative to what they read in that letter from OIP. It's like taxes, for example, the tax department puts out advisory opinions all the time. And I think the intent is that you follow them. You know, and if you don't, well, then you suffer the consequences, whatever they may be.
I think, yeah, I think what they have to come up with is, although those who are engaged and follow, you know, like their neighborhood news and happenings, they may feel that they're engaged, but what about, they're looking out for the lowest, I don't wanna say denominator, but the lowest person to say, that, to make sure their rights aren't stepped on. So I think that's why the ruling came the way it is. My question is like, so the Aya Community Association, is that considered a third party entity?
Yeah,
Okay, so unless I specifically say everything that's going to be discussed at the meeting, they cannot make a decision about that?
correct.
Cannot discuss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the public can ask you as many questions as they want, but the board members cannot ask you anything if it's not clearly listed on the agenda.
Yeah, the problem there, I think, is the distinction between the public and the board. It's like, the public can ask questions, but why can't the board ask questions? They're part of the public. I mean, that's the whole point of having neighborhood boards, is to encourage participation and discussion. So if you gotta discuss something openly like the public, then it just doesn't make sense.
And you would think that the people on the neighborhood board are the people that are most knowledgeable about their community.
Well, you know, they should be able to ask the questions that, you know, come to mind if they hear something. Because they can often, you know, like you have the police department and they have their report, you can have a template of what they might cover, but, you know, if you know, just the day before, they had a big incident and somebody's curious as to ask about it, it's not on the agenda, so don't tell me that you can't talk about it. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if it's something that could affect the whole community, the community wants to know what happened, if, you know, they're at risk, or they need to inform the public, and that's one way to get information out. When we ask questions, the boards ask questions, and folks like the police can respond, because then it's getting information out, not just to the board members, but all in the community, especially if it's something that's timely. You can't wait a month to warn people to be watchful of something, you know, problem.
Mr. Chair, I will say that we're probably gonna have the same discussion when it comes up for the resolution.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I would kindly, respectfully ask if maybe we can hold off on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lloyd, I do agree, taking things into advice is absolutely, they're within their domain to do that. They're within their lane to bring out things for advice with the boards, that's fine.
Yeah, but
If they wanted to make it different, they would have done it differently. They laid out some things, they're giving advice, and that's fine.
I can tell you that, well, yeah, the point is that the word advice is not necessarily in the same vein as we think the word advice. I just give you advice whether you take it or not.
Right.
No, this advice is telling you this is our opinion.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, so, and basically they're saying, this is the rule, this is the law, you guys gotta follow it.
Yeah, I think this is an opinion letter.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
don't
Right, it's
see,
an opinion.
yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
that's,
But an opinion letter is the legal,
oh, absolutely.
Position.
From an authoritative
right,
entity, yes.
Yeah.
They're saying this is what you need to do. That's what you gotta do.
Oh, anything else?
no, I think that's good for me.
Okay, are there any further questions?
Yeah, one hand raised online from Kevin Lai.
Kevin, you have, the floor, you have a question for Lloyd?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the comments and yours in particular. You know, this letter from OIP appears to be an opinion. I don't know if it's technically an S appeal as they categorize, you know, very formal, lengthy, well-cited opinions. I believe that opinions from OIP are subject to appeal by members of the public or recipients of such, but I believe that window is within 7 days of issuance of the opinion. So I wonder then if we're in the position where something akin to generating a test case that would perhaps go up to the Supreme Court of the United States, for example, would be useful. In that we could say, well, this is the way our current boards operate. So now can you, OIP, definitively show where and how you came up with this opinion? You know, just to put some meat behind the bones of what they've told us. I just wonder if that would be one way to alleviate some of the concerns and perhaps get a change in opinion once they realize better how the neighborhood boards operate. Thank you.
Patrick?
Can I respond? I think what you're talking about is you're asking OIP to make an interpretation based on practicality and what's best for the neighborhood boards. I think what they would come back and probably say is we're making an interpretation of the law that's on the books and how that applies, or you know, how the practical effects for all the boards is another matter, and that's a matter for the legislature. I mean, you can argue about their interpretation, but to say that it's having a poor effect on the boards, that just, I'm sorry, that just doesn't come into play.
Also, just, you know, maybe not to take the discussion too far down the road, because we're gonna have it later on, but there is a distinction between a board member and a member of the public. And the member of the public can ask pretty much anything, anytime. The board member cannot. And I think OIP's view is the board member has certain authorities that the public does not. You know, because the board member can propose resolutions, can pass resolutions, the public cannot. So I don't wanna sound too crass about it, but I think sometimes the opinion is, if you can't function as a board member, then become a member of the public.
Are we trying to promote the opposite?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. What we're trying to promote is public discussion. Yeah, so I think it's like, I think they make that distinction between a board member and a member of the public, that they're different entities. And if the Sunshine Law was created for the public, so that the public can know what's going on, then they will probably always stand with the public. Anyway.
Okay,
We do have one more hand raised, but I think because it's on the same topic that we brought up, we can.
okay, we'll hold any further discussion on the OIP.
Actually, Chair, I just had a quick comment if I could, please.
Hold on a second till you recognize. Is that who you meant?
Yes,
Okay, we have one more,
it's great to see.
question. Greg Masakin, you're recognized, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. So what I think would be helpful, I know we're not going to be doing it at the moment. Maybe we can do it when the resolution comes up on the agenda. It would be helpful to see the section of the Sunshine Law that specifically talks about interactions. My impression and my belief is that we should be able to ask a question. So when the police are going over their monthly report, they're giving statistics, they're raising issues. We do have members of the public also asking questions, but if they didn't, so say no member of the public asked something, we as board members, if we have a question, maybe just to confirm something that we're not clear on, we should be able to have a little bit of interaction without getting into a deep dive or a deep discussion with the elected official or the representative of HPD. And that's always been my interpretation. But what's happened with, at least at our board, is sometimes it goes far over that. It's a deep dive, deep discussion, and a debate. That's where I think Sunshine Law draws the line. But I think there's some misinterpretation of that, and we need to find that gray area because OIP may not actually be correct. And I think that's where there's a line that we need to figure out. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to the next item of business, which is new business. And we've got two requests from two neighborhood boards to make changes to their seats and how we look at them at large or by district. So the first one is Kuli'o Kalani'iki Neighborhood Board number 2. And they're requesting to temporarily reduce the number of seats from 17 to 13 for the remainder of the 23-25 term to achieve quorum by removing one seat from the following sub-districts. Sub-District 5, which is Wailupi Peninsula, Sub-District 6, which is Aina Aina, Sub-District 7, which is New Valley, and Sub-District 8, which is Kuli'o.
I guess my question is, are all these districts that they're reducing seats from have representation currently?
They do.
Yeah, they balanced this themselves. It was
Yeah.
their decision on how to configure this.
I figured, but I just wanted to ask him.
Yeah, this came from the board.
So do we have a copy of the resolution requesting same?
I don't have it with us.
I don't think they passed a resolution. I think it was just a motion. It was on their agenda and then they just made a motion
Made a
to
request.
request that.
That's how it came to us.
Yeah, I move that we approve Kuli'o's request to reduce one member from each sub-districts. Wailupi as the SD 5, Sub-District 5, Wailupi Peninsula, Sub-District 6, Aina Haina, Sub-District 7, New Valley, and Sub-District 8, Kuli'o.
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes,
Stephen, go ahead.
I know the area, and if they don't have representation, Aina Haina and Neil Valley, that's a big stretch of area.
No, they do, right, the
So
question,
they're just saying they're removing seats, right?
one seat from maybe they have more than one seat.
One seat
I believe they have multiple seats within each sub-district, so they're just shaving one off of each
Okay,
to
fine.
turn them at large.
Yeah, from
Thank you.
17.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Forget
they're
what I said.
17.
Well, they went from 17 to 13
13.
seats.
That's the request. And it's a temporary, so
Yeah.
they go through.
Run
to
through the
this-
term.
6 months.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be very long.
I can give you a little bit, the temporary simply because they have a challenge meeting quorum.
Mhm.
And they haven't been able to, and, you know, part of the challenge is that if you got a sub-district, and it's up, the seat is open, it's not sometimes easy to get someone from that sub-district to step up, so. And it is just temporary. The other thing that I think we should always remember is that it doesn't matter to me where you are in the sub-districts or not in the sub-district or at large. The whole board should represent everybody. I mean, that is the mandate, right? So, I'm not too concerned somebody would lose it, lose representation, but right now they really have a challenge getting quorum, which means they can't pass it. So
That's
it's a temporary.
Yes, sir, that's understandable. Sure, the reason why I bring it up is Aina Haina and Neil Valley, there's a lot of seniors there. If they're relying upon the sub-district seats to represent them, I know the area, it's just a lot of senior citizens there. If we're comfortable, I mean, I'm comfortable with going ahead and helping them to achieve quorum, but not if there is instance, it's also the catch-22 situation. They need to have sufficient representation in the area for the public.
If no one's stepping up to, I mean, I assume they ask for volunteers to fill the position
Every
at each
meeting.
meeting. Yeah, if no one steps up, then what can you do?
And again, it doesn't matter who steps up on what sub-district, they should represent everybody in the neighborhood district, so.
And really, given the new advisory from OIP, you know, really, the board cannot ask questions, and the public only is the one, so if you had a burning issue and you were from the Aina Haina district, then you would go and you would say so at the meeting in public, I mean, you know,
As the candidate registration is upcoming, it'd be a good time also for the board to announce that some more, promote it at their meetings, you know. We need some more people from that area.
We could grant it, but back to the chair to say, please do your best to fill these seats. That's a
I think that's a given.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like everybody's kind of ready to vote. I think they know which way they want to go. So are we ready for the vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. We heard you. Okay, the next one is Aya Neighborhood Board number 20. Their request is to temporarily change the designation of one sub-district 4 seat to an at-large seat for the remainder of the 2023-25 term to resolve the issue of filling the vacant seat. So I take it they can't get somebody from the sub-district, so they want to make it at large.
I would move.
Bill?
I wanna make a motion.
Okay.
That we, this is a good thing,
We approve.
that we approve.
I'll
Okay.
second.
We moved and seconded to accept and approve the Aya board's request to make one of their sub-districts at large.
I have a meeting.
So much.
Yeah, and they're not talking about, yeah, I agree, they're not talking.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. The motion passes, so we accept that change, we'll make that change. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the resolution that we've kind of been talking about, so keeping all of the discussion we've already had in mind, we can talk about this resolution that seeks to amend the sunshine law requirements for neighborhood boards. So the resolution would allow the neighborhood commission to govern the sunshine law application for the neighborhood boards. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to Patrick first to start us off, since he brought the resolution to the commission.
Thank you. Might I first say, this is just a generalized recommendation to the legislature. It's not the, obviously verbatim statutory language. So this was sort of put together right after our meeting, and I really mistakenly should have said, instead of first responders, other departments, I should have, and so on, and said third-party reports. So I would respectfully ask if the commission would consider amending that language, just to kind of strike all those and just make them third-party reports. Because that would also allow, I mean, it's basically everything that I wrote in there anyway, but it just makes it a little bit more clear. So I guess I would make that motion to amend this resolution to read, I don't have to figure out how it's supposed to read, but basically instead of reports from, we just say third-party reports, or third-party reporters. And,
Entities, doing
Yeah,
reports
that's
from
fine.
third-party entities.
okay, and I will, so, yeah, so strike where it says from first responders all the way through the and the non-board events, and just say from third-party entities.
What line is that?
It's line 2. So if you see, if it reads, be it resolved, the commission requests that the legislature amend the law to provide for more open discussion during reports from third-party entities, comma, and then it jumps to line 3, and allow the neighborhood commission. So it just strikes the listing of essentially the third-party reports. And it just says any third-party entity. And I think that should, including members attending other events. What's in the neighborhood plan? There's, and in the law, there's if you attend third-party meetings or something. So it could be the members themselves.
Right.
So we probably need to have that language. third-party entities and members reporting from
Attendance at other
public
meetings.
events.
Just as it says, members attending other non-board events.
Okay, so we keep that language. Okay? So that's, I guess, I think it's been seconded.
No.
Okay, so anyway, that's my amendment. I move to amend the resolution.
Second.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll put Bill's name in a minute.
What was it? Yes.
The amendment, we're approving the.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We're motioning the amendment.
Yeah, so I made a motion to amend the resolution, so
And
we
you
could
second.
take a vote on that.
No, you see.
Whatever.
Okay, so the
Discussion.
motion is to accept the amendment that we were just discussing and Patrick just read. So, any further discussion on that?
I do have a hand raised online.
Who's that?
Brian Black.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that to just amend this part of the,
Right,
the part of the resolution is not the overall, not
right.
acceptance of the overall resolution. Thank you.
So we have a hand up from a Brian Black. You have the floor.
To the amendment.
I'm unclear, is this for testimony on the resolution or not?
No. We're
So you're
talking about
taking-
the amendment to the resolution.
Amendment.
Fine, I'd like to discuss the resolution. When that's
Okay.
time, I'd like to
All
raise.
right. Okay, seeing no other hands, take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, so amended that, resolve clause, the final resolve clause.
Okay, so just getting back, we talked a lot about this in the, our last gathering, where we talked about exempting the neighborhood boards. And just so everybody is clear on this, there are 7 parts to the Sunshine Law. The last 7th part actually has, I think, 3 provisions concerning the neighborhood boards. So there is a distinction within the law itself to set aside the neighborhood boards. So what I'm asking for in this resolution is 2 parts. First off, to allow the board members to actually participate and initiate discussion from these third-party reports and our reporters. And then the second part, which is obviously probably very controversial too, instead of allowing the Office of Informational Practices to administer the Sunshine Law, allow the commission to administer the Sunshine Law for the neighborhood boards. So currently, there is, the neighborhood, or the commission does have primary jurisdiction over the neighborhood boards. But as we can see with this letter, as a practical matter, it's OIP. And we're, as a practical matter, we're stuck in the mud. We just cannot, I think from what I hear from testimony from the NCO, they don't feel comfortable making pronouncements on the Sunshine Law itself and those types of provisions and requirements. So they can't really inform the boards of exactly what to do because it ventures into areas outside their, let's say, expertise. So that's why I would ask that the law be changed to allow the commission to oversee the boards regarding the Sunshine Law. And to me, it just makes sense. The commission itself will still be governed by the Sunshine Law. The commission itself will still be subject to OIP in this, if this was accepted by the legislature. So this is asking them. And I did talk to a legislator who seems very intent on making a proposal to make this change. And this legislator is very, very much on board with the first part. The first part about allowing more discussion. And in talking to other legislators, they seem pretty open to that too. They think it's kind of commonsensical. The second part about allowing the neighborhood commission, that's a little different because it just depends. I think we're going to have some, maybe some pushback by legislators, but I still think it's the right thing for the commission to do is ask for it. I'm not saying it'll be successful, but I think it's the right thing for the commission to ask for. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, the other thing is that you know, this resolution really, in realistic terms, maybe just move the needle a little bit, because it doesn't ensure at all anything that will happen to the Sunshine Law. And with a resolution like this, any number of legislators could introduce bills, and who knows what might go in. And whether we end up supporting or not, you know, various measures, I mean, it's really all up for grabs. So this just kind of opens the door to explore this possibility, I think. So we just don't know what the endpoint will be, depending on what kind of bills get introduced on this topic.
Well, if I could respond to that, and that is, I just think it's important that the commission itself, as we're deemed the body overseeing the neighborhood boards, it's important for us to take a stand and saying, this is how we feel the issue should be dealt with.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has no guarantees
And
or
that was,
anything like that.
I think, loud and clear when we had the meeting with the chairs and vice chairs in terms of their reaction to the letter we received from OIP, basically, you know, thinking that it just went too far, and it, rather than letting the sunshine in, as the Sunshine Law is interpreted to try to accomplish, it actually may be stifling the boards from having, you know, free discussion, open discussion about, you know, all kinds of things, because it's really hard to tell neighborhood boards what they can or cannot talk about. Let me tell you, I've seen the boards, and, you know, it's very difficult. So they don't want to be muzzled in any way, basically.
Yeah, I have two concerns. Why would anybody want to serve on the neighborhood board if they can't ask questions and be a public, you know, be a public voice? You know, that's the whole idea of why you get people to run for the neighborhood board, you know, to be engaged. If I can be just J2 public and go when I want to go, and, you know, that leaves nothing for community building. And I guess my second point would be, a lot of times is OIP making these rulings because they're worried about liability. So if the commission takes on the responsibility of, you know, overseeing the neighborhood boards, are we covered by any kind of liability that we say, like, we make a decision that is not, that falls out of the purviews of Sunshine Law or whatever? Are we covered as far as board commission? Was city, what is it, the city attorney go to bat for us?
The concern over all these years in seeing how the Sunshine Law works and its relationship to neighborhood boards, one of the biggest concerns is that the boards will make decisions on issues that's important to the community without notifying them in advance. So the idea is that they don't make decisions in a vacuum. I mean, you know, you can have discussion, but when it's time to make decisions, then it's properly put on the agenda, so, you know, everybody can weigh in on the issue, whatever it may be. And I don't think that the current interpretation of the Sunshine Law is, you know, stated in the letter that we got from them.
No, I hear you.
That, I don't think that that's going too far, because I don't think the boards really have tried to pull the wool over the community's eyes in terms of making decisions. And the Sunshine Law is really trying to protect the public from things like that from happening, like the legislature, you know, going into conference committee and making decisions outside of the view of the public. So
No, I hear you, Richard, what I'm saying, and I think we have enough safeguards in the way we handle the board as far as the 2/3 vote, if something's not on the agenda, or if, you know, leaving it to the next meeting, but yet saddle them and say they can't ask any questions.
Exactly.
They're the ones supposed to be in the knowledge, you know, so. So I support this resolution.
Yeah, I do, Chair, I do too, because we're not replacing or doing, we're not disregarding the Sunshine Law. All we're doing is the commission is applying it over the boards, which is correct. And the boards trust us. And I don't believe there's any other liability issue, because we're still within the constraints of the Sunshine Law. The only thing that I have to add to this, is to put this through, is to go ahead and dovetail with a couple of our legislators, which we know, to put through a bill to do this.
Any other comments from the commissioners? I know there are hands, with the public tonight, so anything else from the commission members? If not, we'll, Dylan, who's up first?
Brian Black.
Okay, I'll call on, Mr. Brian Black. You have the floor. You can comment on the, resolution before us.
Yeah, good evening, members. Folks may not be aware, but the Sunshine Law does require taking public testimony before there's discussion by the board. But in any event, I think it's unfortunate that this letter, I'm sorry, my name is Brian Black. I'm the executive director for Public First Law Center. And this is sort of, this area is where I practice. And I think it's unfortunate that this letter from OIP, which is just informal guidance, it's, if you've ever seen an opinion, a formal opinion letter from OIP, it looks nothing like this. It's signed by the director. This isn't signed by the director. So this is just guidance. And it's unfortunate that this has led to such consternation and confusion by the neighborhood boards. I hear things like that HPD, if they were to do a presentation, then the board members can't ask questions about things that have happened recently. And that's just not true. 92-83 allows it. That's not even addressed in the IP guidance. And the reason for that is just based on the questions that were asked. If you folks really want an advisory opinion, like truly reviewed by OIP, then I would recommend asking for them to do that, because that's not what this is, and maybe pose factual hypotheses, things that you're concerned about, and you want to make sure that you're on the right side, and that what their true interpretation of the Sunshine Law is. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
You didn't really address why, if you're for or against the resolution, you only talked about the letter itself. So if you want to speak to the resolution as to why this commission should not request that the legislature make changes that we discuss here. Do you want to address that?
I think as I understand it, the resolution is to allow for the board members to discuss things with with respect to third-party reports. And to the extent that it is something that board members already know that they want to discuss. So for example, there was the most recent OIP opinion about neighborhood boards was concerning a board that wanted to discuss a liquor license, but they didn't put it on the agenda. And then they knew they wanted to discuss it, but didn't.
Sorry, you're cutting out. Can't hear you. Want to stop for a second?
Sorry.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So I don't know what you heard, so I'll just recap briefly. I think when the board members know that they want to discuss something, they need to put it on the agenda. And even if it's something that a third-party report would cover. And the idea that you would have an exemption for third-party reports is an invitation for board members to hide information that they want to discuss with third parties rather than putting it on the agenda. So, which is what happened in that most recent OIP decision. So I think it's a bad idea.
Okay, Patrick?
I understand your concern, and that would be an abuse is what I would consider, and that's what the commission can make rules around if we're granted that authority. However, I would give you another hypothetical. If someone from the fire department comes in and says, hey, just our tip of the week, don't do X, don't do whatever bad thing that you can do to create a fire. And a board member has a question. And I don't think that that would be covered under 92-83 as a timely action on a matter that is necessary for public health. I mean, yeah, it is a public health, I suppose you could, but there are other things.
Deep fried turkeys.
Yeah, I mean, is it something that needs to be taken action on right away? A lot of people would argue no, he's just giving you a tip. So that's what we're trying to get at, is a function of the board is to allow members of the public to communicate. And as we had discussed earlier, we consider board members to be members of the public. And I understand in certain categories they may not be considered. But for discussion purposes, that's what we're trying to get at. So there are a lot of scenarios. Yes, the mention of, trying to hide things, that is a problem. But the pendulum has swung too far to the other side, in my estimation, of restricting free and open discussion. So
like I said, I don't think that OIP, they didn't even address 92-83. I do think that the discussion that you're referencing, there is a, who knows how it would come out, but I think that's something that if you were concerned about, you could raise with OIP. I do think that it would be covered. It's a matter of public safety, and it's something that if the board member had a question about what exactly it is that people shouldn't be doing, then they can clarify that. But in any event, if you do go forward, we are available to talk about specific language or anything else. And we've done that with other types of boards and commissions in terms of trying to come up with something that is workable for everybody.
Oh, thank you for that. Sorry.
Yeah.
You do have a great
Yeah. Question, comment?
I don't see any problem with going forward with this resolution and also pursuing the other further clarification from OIP. The legislature is not going to meet again until January. But, the fact that we can also set the wheels in motion for a further clarification for OIP, I think only helps us make a case for this come down the line.
I had one more for Mr. Black. Hearing you speak, it sounds like we're kind of on the same page in terms of how we look at things, in terms of what you're after, and I think what the commission is after in terms of not stifling discussion, but to make sure that we can have discussions, open discussions, without running afoul of the Sunshine Law. I mean, we want to be as transparent as we need to be and follow the law. That's why there was a lot of reluctance for people to go beyond what the letter said. And if it's, to us, it's official, although you say it may not be as official as maybe you'd like it to be. So I invite you, if you think you can see ways to fix the Sunshine Law and to help the boards, do what they want to do in terms of stimulating discussion rather than stifling it at their meetings. And at the same time, we recognize that we don't want to make decisions without letting the public know. That's important. But the idea that we have free and open discussions between third parties, the board members, the public, that's the objective. So to me, sometimes the Sunshine Law, instead of letting the sunshine in, they cloud things up like they've done with this letter, making even it harder for the boards to do what they want to do in terms of having discussions. So if you can see ways to fix that in the Sunshine Law, that's what we would be looking for from groups like yours to help us actually.
Yeah, I would just say I think I think the way that it sort of worked out, OIP has this process where they do, instead of appeals and decisions, which is their formal process, when boards or members of the public reach out, they have an attorney of the day process where they just sort of provide informal guidance that references things that they already sort of have out there, which is what this appears to be. They sort of took the questions that were asked and then referenced their printed guidance for the most part and kind of cut it and pasted it into this letter. And without factual context, without a specific example that they were working off of, it comes across, it's difficult for you all and I understand that it's difficult for you all to figure out, okay, well, what exactly does this mean in practice? I think, you know, from my perspective, in terms of helping boards and what often when folks are asking for exceptions and things like that, what we're often looking at is, okay, tell us what it is that you want to be able to do, and we will try to figure out. And I have a sense of what that is. I think some of it, I would say, you can do that already, and I'm not sure that this guidance precludes it, but if there's an understanding of what it is, like examples, hypotheticals of what it is you want to do, that will help us in terms of suggesting language.
Thank you.
We have several hands raised online.
Okay,
I just have a quick question.
Stephen, I have the floor.
Mr. Black, what is your website? What is your website?
Publicfirstlaw.org.
Thank you.
Who do we have?
Next one is Julie Reyes Oda.
Okay, Julie Reyes Oda, you have the floor, your hands up.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Neighborhood Commission. I'm Julie Reyes Oda. I live in Eva Beach, and I was the vice chair of the Eva Neighborhood Board up until 3 weeks ago. Currently, I'm the new state rep for District 40 in Eva Beach. Tonight, I'm providing testimony supporting the intent of the resolution requesting that the Hawaii State Legislature amend Sunshine Law requirements for neighborhood boards. The main reason for the existence of neighborhood boards is to increase and assure effective citizen participation in the decisions of government. Board members do not have very much authority, and if we tell people that the only way to retain their voice is to get off the board, the neighborhood board will cease to exist in its current form. It's ironic because at this very meeting, this commission considered and approved reducing seats for 2 boards because of how hard it is to meet quorum. Neighborhood boards must be able to increase citizen participation in the decisions of government while maintaining independence, and this OIP decision seems not to promote participation. I'm here to say that I commit to working on a bill to exempt the neighborhood boards from the parts of the Sunshine Law to allow the continued citizen participation that I have seen. Laws need to make sense, and while this needs a continued discussion, the work needs to be done by us in the Capitol to support our communities. Thank you for allowing me to participate tonight.
Thank you.
Jermaine Myers.
Ms. Jermaine Myers, you're next. You have your hand up to speak. Jermaine?
Hello, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Aloha, my name is Jermaine Myers. I'm a Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead lessee, but I'm also I'm a board member for the Nanakuli Maili Neighborhood Board. I'm in support of the resolution, and I mahalo Representative Julie Reyes Oda. I seen her at Eva Beach Neighborhood Board as a board member, and I appreciate everything that she just stated. My testimony tonight want to highlight the fact that legislature doesn't follow Sunshine Law, yet they handle tax dollars. At the board level, we don't have any financial gain. We don't oversee any financial matters. We're not a department. We're not an agency. We're not a board with paid trustees that manages paid staff and general funds and trust funds. That's why with our advisory capacity, we don't have to comply with state ethics rules, financial disclosure filings, gift filings, and gift laws, lobby laws, etc. We are citizens given the opportunity to question our lawmakers, state and city officials, military representatives from the Army and Navy, presentations from developers developing lands in our community, and nonprofits providing services in our community. The neighborhood board members and the residents that attend our meetings can question the people that manage our lands, our natural resources, and our citizen checkbook, what I call where all of our tax dollars go into. It's our citizen checkbook. We can protect that by coming to the neighborhood board and questioning those people that truly have kuleana over it. None of us on the board and none of us standing there at the microphone doing community concerns actually have power over those things, but we are given the power to come and question those who have those things. I also appreciate the editors and the staff at Civil Bee and all of the journalists that come and highlight things for us that we need to be concerned about. But the neighborhood board gives us a face and a voice to do that. Mahalo, mahalo, Chair.
Thank you.
Next one is Kevin Lai.
Okay, next up is Kevin Lai. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I first want to appreciate the comments by Mr. Black earlier. They seem to echo the suggestion that was made during the period of public concerns about pushing back a little bit against OIP, or at least asking for refinement or clarification, and getting a more formal and formally referenced document to provide as true guidance for the commission and the boards. Second, I hope that Commissioner Smith can confirm here for us all that there's no intent of the resolution being proposed tonight to amend or abridge any of the other components of Sunshine Law, that they won't get swept away to continue to protect the public, such as prohibition of caucusing about votes, permitted interaction groups, timely disclosures of documents, just to make sure, to reassure the public that that's not the intent of this. And then lastly, I just have concerns about the second clause of the first be it finally resolved clause, namely asking for permission to make the neighborhood commission to serve as the arbiter of Sunshine Law. I just ask if the commissioners think and feel and believe that they are and will, and the body will always remain able to adeptly and swiftly understand and interpret the laws themselves. And even if so, is there, or will there still be an appeal above that to OIP or someone else? I just wonder if this adds an additional, perhaps unnecessary, level of bureaucracy. And again, just want to make sure that the neighborhood commissioners feel that they will be the best authority and be informed and able to interpret the ever/possibly changing laws about Sunshine Law in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next.
If you want.
Can I respond to that real quick? I'll try to do it quickly. First off, yes, I would reassure the public that we're not trying to take a broad, cutting knife to all the protections in the Sunshine Law. It actually is, I think it is clearly the intent of the commission to keep the spirit of the Sunshine Law intact. And so that takes us to the second part. As you may be aware, there is a provision, I think it's in 92F. For those that care, I can tell you exactly, but 92F-43 that talks about how you can appeal the OIP. That would have to be, this type of administration or of the Sunshine Law would have to be actually very much sorted out by the particular legislation. So it's really beyond us at this point for us to kind of dictate or to even suggest how that would come about. That would be one of the legislative experts to kind of clarify the process. This resolution just expresses our desire to make that happen. The details would have to be clarified in any proposal and obviously signed by the governor and that sort of go through the whole process.
Right.
Does that clarify?
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Online is Greg Masakian.
Okay, Greg Masakian, you have the floor. Your hands up.
Thank you very much, Chair and commissioners. So first, I really appreciate that Ryan Black participated today. I was pleasantly surprised to see that. He's a voice of incredible reason, and an attorney who understands the law well, I think, within the state of Hawaii. So he's got a lot of opinions that have been published. So my suggestion, based on everything I'm hearing this evening, is that I would suggest establishing a committee to discuss the Sunshine Law and invite Mr. Black to participate in that discussion. I understand the concern, and I would never rush to a resolution, especially something that's going to change the, I guess, where the power is. So OIP currently oversees the Sunshine Law, and now what I'm hearing is that the commission would like to oversee the Sunshine Law. And when we give the power to the commission, the concern is it's a biased situation. There's a conflict of interest that's just by optics, by sheer optics. It's visible, it's there, it's never going to go away. And I think that's the concerns that will later come into play with the public's interest. So my suggestion is to defer the resolution. I'm not saying don't have one someday, just for the moment. Establish a committee, invite members to participate, other legislators. Today we had 10 of 11 freshman legislators at Kukua Council for a forum. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see Representative Oda. She was busy with something, but we hope to see her in the future. And we hope that our legislators understand that the Sunshine Law was meant for a purpose. So please don't take the intent of the Sunshine Law away, even by the sheer confusion. I will. Even by the sheer confusion of what's going on right now with OIP, where it's not very clear. So I'll leave it there. I think you understand what I meant by that. And I do thank you for the opportunity again to speak.
Great, thank you.
That's all we had online. I think Tom is in this.
Thank you, Chair. To be very brief, I think based on the scope of the discussion, the first point I'd like to emphasize is this is the start of the discussion. And even this resolution goes exactly to that point, that if there were to be any amendments to the Sunshine Law, particularly relevant to neighborhood boards and neighborhood board system, or resolutions or other elements of the legislative process to address this and other concerns for the neighborhood board system, this is a start. This is not a solution in and of itself in that way. Secondly, I appreciate some of the suggestions from others in this discussion on other distinct issues that also in this larger discussion should be addressed, because they probably need to be covered, if you will, in, I'll call it Part 7 amendments to the Sunshine Law. I also wish to note, before wrapping up here, that in general, and Lloyd as the messenger, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, OIP consistently has not wanted to deal with neighborhood board system issues. It's a matter of you deal with it first, Neighborhood Commission, and if it's something that really seems absolutely unique, then throw it to us for our consideration. But they don't want to deal generally with neighborhood board system in the same way that the Ethics Commission for the city also does not include neighborhood board members for various reasons. Last point is simply this. The fundamental distinction, I think, from all of this, and looking at, which I won't quote, but section 92-1, the purpose section of the Sunshine Law. When you look at that statement, it still is a great statement today. But if you also add the voice of applying the neighborhood board to some of that language, it misses the inclusion of neighborhood boards. And so my final point is simply this. The distinction of a government agency compared to a town hall or open forum meeting. In other words, the distinction between discussion versus decision in policymaking has been missed by the current iteration, or where we are now with Chapter 92. And I think what needs to be revitalized here is exactly the neighborhood boards are the town halls. They're the grassroots discussions, and everything that we're used to dealing with Well, now you have further statements from OIP saying, no, you can't even talk about it at all, except as some folks have said, you have that freedom as an audience member. You do not have that freedom as a neighborhood board member, which seems completely upside down. So, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've had all the discussion, I think, we need to on the resolution, so you have the resolution. Is there anything further, Patrick, on the resolution, or that's it? Okay, so do we want to take any action on the resolution? Do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the resolution as earlier amended.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, so we pass the resolution as it was amended tonight.
Thank you.
And I guess if we, can I just say, if we can get a clean copy so that we could help lobby for our legislators.
Yes.
Patrick,
Yeah.
what I would suggest is that since you've been having meetings on this, I know, and you've been talking to people like Tom, who's familiar with the Sunshine Law and legislation, maybe helpful if you spoke with others and get some ideas, because, you know, for example, next week the Senate's going back in terms of they're going to start working on legislation, getting bills drafted before the start of the legislature in January. So, you know, like folks like Brian Black, if you talk to him, he may have some ideas. And if you can get input from a group like that, you know, that might get you a long way in terms of coming up with something that might fly. Because this resolution is pretty general. It doesn't tell you exactly what you need to put in. And if other legislators, like Representative Reyes mentioned, that she's gonna work on a bill, you may have multiple pieces of legislation that will be introduced. So whatever one lands and gets introduced, we could have a variety of measures that might do what we want or may not. I don't know. So, but now is the time to really actually start working on that. And I would suggest people like Brian Black and maybe others that you know that could be helpful in addition to folks like Tom.
Well, just so you know, and I hope he doesn't mind me bringing it up. One of the legislators I spoke to was Carl Rhodes, and he was pretty accepting of the discussion part of it, but I don't want to hold him to anything. But the second part of having the commission, I think that was the first time he had probably heard that. So he was a little, he said I have to reserve judgment, but he was going to have a person on his staff start to investigate how to implement that in a legislative proposal or a bill. And so when I talked to him about the second part where he was a little bit more reluctant, I did ask him to reach out. I said, you need to talk to Lloyd to hear, and I think it's important to hear the NCOs, just their experience.
If there's discomfort or reluctance, for example, to put the commission in charge of overseeing the Sunshine Law, I can understand that, and OIP may not be comfortable with that either.
Right.
However, the key is to make the changes that will enable the boards to operate as they wish in terms of having that free flow of discussion. So anything that can be crafted that will accomplish that objective, I mean, that takes us in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think that's in the works. So he's definitely pushing it forward in the Senate, and I haven't really worked on the House part yet.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because now's the time to really do that.
We're just asking for bills, so.
Yeah, we're gonna start drafting bills.
And I don't think we should get so hung up on getting a final state, because the legislature is gonna do their take on that.
Right.
We have no control.
But if they get the intent of,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what's great about the resolution is I can go to him and say, hey, this is what the commission, this is what they believe. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah, and I think it's a reflection of all of the neighborhood boards, as we heard comments from a lot of the board chairs in terms of, they're not too happy with the OIP there, for example.
We reassure them that we're not trying to gain power over,
We don't have.
Well, I think there is some, talking to different legislators, so I don't want to just say Carl Rhodes, but there's some recognition that there's, that OIP sometimes goes,
Too far.
yeah, and that's some general comments I've heard. I don't want to be specific, but, so,
First time.
so I don't know. Who knows how it's gonna shake out, but I think this is a great place to start with the legislature.
Thank you for putting this together.
Okay, so we're done with that. The resolution, so we're gonna move on to committee reports. Does anybody have a report tonight? Election survey or neighborhood plan committee? Elections, Claire?
Elections. So it was mailed out to all the neighborhood board members.
Who saw it?
Yeah, I heard about it at the neighborhood board meeting. But encouraging people for candidate registration for the 2025 neighborhood board elections. They also were given a timeline to help remind people that they should not forget to put in their candidacy. And so I think, we'll just make sure that we somehow publicize it also to the general public, and then maybe, because it's on our website already, right? And then the details of the election itself come in the new year.
Very good. Questions? No. Not survey committee? Eden?
Yes, we had a survey committee meeting here on the 21st, went well. I had in hand all the comments from the neighborhood board members. And we as a committee discussed a pig, decided not to do the pig. And each member took a portion of the statements, questions, comments, and the board members. And so we're gonna work that as a group. I told them what we thought about is putting left to right, have the comments as is on the left, and then the survey commissioner, which is working that section on the right side, will put down what they want, just boil it down, what they want to see in the survey. And I'm gonna do that within a week, provide that to our survey committee members, and then we're going to respond, compile that, and have it ready for the next survey meeting. If we do reschedule the next survey meeting?
January 16th.
Okay, January 16th.
Is that true?
That's what I have written down on my little post-it here.
That seems a little, let me check.
So we're gonna discuss it the next survey, and after that.
23rd. I'm leaning towards it as the 23rd. Do you remember? It's written down.
Either way, I'm fine,
It'll
23
be
is fine.
solidified later, yeah.
Mahia.
Yeah, Mahia, you're online. Do you remember?
Let me see what I have on my calendar.
It was January 16th.
Oh,
Thursday.
she got cut off. Okay.
I think it's the 16th.
Yeah?
It's the 16th, a Thursday.
Okay. Fine.
Okay, anything else? Eden?
No, sir, very pleased. We're
Thank
moving
you.
forward.
Good report.
Chair, before we move any further, we do have a hand raised from Kevin. Oh, he just put his hand down, but I think he had a question to ask.
Put it back up.
No, it's back up.
Yeah, questions, Kevin?
6 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Chair, thank you. I'd hope to catch the committee chair for the elections committee, but I don't know if my hand was recognized back then, if I could address.
Question for Claire.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering if it was going to be the practice again this year for the elections committee to collect and present online as they are received, the names and candidacy statements, or if they will all be held and then revealed en masse after the end of the registration period. I don't know what's considered best practice, but I just recall seeing it at the past election cycle and didn't know if that was the intent. Thank you.
You know, we haven't met as a committee to discuss that detail, but I think my inclination would be that we would hold it to the very end to see how many candidates come out. Whereas if we release it as we go along, I mean, I think the thinking being that you want candidates who actually want to run for the position as opposed to run against someone that's running for position.
Because in the past, you posted as they came in, I believe.
Yes, I believe so.
Fine.
So people can see who's submitted their application to run.
Their opponents.
And that might prompt others to run, if they see who's running. So sometimes that generates more candidates, you know, if they know who's running.
True.
If they don't know who's running, then they may not
We'll
want
discuss
to
it.
be trying to run, so.
We'll take that comment in mind, Kevin, and we'll discuss it further and announce it.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, you would plan to be?
We're plugging along. We have a next meeting coming up, January 20th, I believe it is the date. I can't recall. If anybody needs specific, it'll be on the calendar. There is, we did discuss if the NCO wants to come forward with a proposal to reform or to revise the complaint procedures. We might take that up separately and ask that to be pushed forward in the sense that ask the commission to take that up, and we take that as a separate process to kind of get through that part first. So we actually go through the public hearings and that sort of thing. So we're waiting on the commission to make that proposal. And other than that, if they don't, we're just keep going as we are. Any questions?
Just want to clarify, the January 20th was taken out because that is.
That is. Okay, well, then it'll be a to be determined.
Yeah, it may have been
TBD.
discussed.
TV. Sounds good.
Not official to the agenda yet.
Okay, there you go.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And the public will be noticed.
Yeah, because anytime you go off Monday, then you often run into conflicts. Because
Yeah.
neighborhood boards have meetings.
Well, the
Yeah.
holidays all.
Yeah, the days.
Yeah, so I have to look at that and
So it might be February.
who knows?
Okay, we
Question for
Come.
Everyone has his hand up.
Yeah. For
Kevin, you have a question on the committee reports?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Regarding the Neighborhood Plan Committee, I understand the next meeting will be TBD, and hopefully, I wonder when the committee chair might have an idea of the next sections to be discussed. I know at the last committee meeting, we said that would be disclosed. Sooner the better, of course, it would be great. Secondly, I would ask, because this is tangentially related to the resolution that was just adopted, if any of the commissioners would consider making a motion to amend something previously adopted to permit correction of the typographic error in the 10th whereas clause, especially as the resolution will be going out to the governor on down, it might help elevate it just a bit. Thank you.
I would hope that we'd have some ability to make grammatical changes as long as they're not substantive.
Right.
Isn't that sort of implied?
That's a standard.
Okay, yeah, I mean, thank you. And actually, if you could send me a note, an email about what the error is, I'd appreciate it. So, or maybe to Dylan, if you'd copy Dylan. As far as the next set of provisions that we will look over, actually, you were the first person I sent the last update to, so I will make sure you get it pretty quickly. Let me go review, and I'll put that online at our unofficial website of exactly. We still have those outstanding provisions that we were going to go back towards, and we didn't finish that list. So we may not actually have other new items to consider. So I'm just not sure yet. So hopefully that'll be done within the next month, so before the end of December.
There's consideration of complaints, right?
Well, the complaints, if the whole complaint procedure, if the NCO wants to produce, come in with a proposal of whether they want to accelerate that portion of it, then we may take that up instead. Now, this will be noticed well in advance of the meeting, so we get have all the sunshine law issues taken care of. But at this point in time, we're just not sure whether that's going to happen. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that that's a possibility. And we did discuss that at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. We're at the next item on our agenda, which is announcements. The next Neighborhood Commission meeting will be in January 2025. We'll take a recess in December. So our next meeting in January 2025 is 27th, right?
It's not 24.
Yeah, that's fine. January 27th, 6 p.m.
Meeting's canceled.
here at Kapalama.
We already had it.
Great.
So we're going to be adjourning this portion of the meeting, the sunshine law portion of the meeting, and moving to adjudicatory matters. So with that, commissioners, please stay for that part of the meeting. If not, the commission meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
you.